This is the OnePlus 6T, and I've been using it for 3 weeks now, and I have a lot of things to say about it. Some negative, some positive. So before I get into this video, let me explain the format. So I make 2 videos, one with the negatives, one with the positives. Basically the things I like and the things I don't like about a phone. Now, I kind of split them up. I could make it into one video, but I kind of like to keep my thoughts separate there. And it kind of gives you a better in-depth look at each instead of just quickly glossing over both categories. Now, let's start off today with the why I don't like this phone, what's wrong with it, and what I feel like needs to change, improve to kind of, make it a better phone. Now, in no way am I hating on the phone. Am I a fanboy of Apple, Samsung, any of the other companies? Sure, I am a fanboy, but I'm a fanboy of tech more than any particular company. And the reason why I'm giving you this long, dragged out explanation is because I get a lot of comments where people just assume that I'm hating on the phone for some reason, where I'm just kind of pointing out the things that are negative, that are not so good about it, and what can be improved. And that's just it, it's not me hating on the phone. If you think I'm hating on it, I make an exactly opposite video to this where I praise the phone. So watch that before you make any comment on whether I'm a fanboy or not. So with that being said, let's move on into the video with number 1. And that is the price increase. So OnePlus was touting in the US markets how they kept the same price again, but what they didn't really mention at all at the Indian keynote, as I was watching, I noticed the price increased again. So I was in India while this phone launched, so I bought it in India, and that means I paid a little bit more than I would have if I was in the US. So in the US, the price kind of equals out to be the same now, but the OnePlus 6 was cheaper than this. It was cheaper by $30 for the same storage variant. So I paid just about I guess like $40 shy of what I paid for my special edition OnePlus 6, which was actually a 256 gig variant, whereas this is just 128. Now, nothing wrong with that. It's just the fact is the price increase puts it in dangerous territory. It is right now in the Indian market. It's neck and neck with the LG G7 Thin Q, which I would say is a lot better phone in a number of different areas than the OnePlus 6T. And it also kind of goes to show me that OnePlus is no longer that flagship killer. It is a flagship itself. So the never compromise, all that, I think that needs to go away with OnePlus, because that's not what it is anymore. It is a full-fledged flagship. It isn't as expensive as the most expensive flagships, but it is no longer a cheap budget phone as it was kind of known for in its earlier days. Number 2, this is a double-edged sword. So double-edged sword basically means it's good, but it's bad as well. So here, the in-display fingerprint scanner. So the in-display fingerprint scanner on this phone it's a mixed bag for me. So right now you saw me unlock it, and it took a lot longer than fingerprint scanners usually do, because physical fingerprint scanners are instant almost to this point where it's like point of a second, like 0.0 seconds, and this is just not the same case. It takes a good, I'd say, 1 or 2 seconds before it's actually in the phone, and that's not animations or graphics. That's just the actual phone trying to read my fingerprint. And I get it, the display, this is kind of new technology, but still, coming from something that was so quick, it annoys me. The same thing annoyed me with Face ID when I moved to the iPhone 10 from the 8 Plus. The fingerprint was just instantaneous, whereas compared to this is not. It's kind of slow, and that kind of is annoying, especially if you're coming from OnePlus 6 or 5T, where the unlock is instantaneous with that screen, with a physical fingerprint scanner. Now, another thing that really does bug me here is that for what happens is, since this is not a physical reader, it's actually taking a photo, not a photo, it's looking at your fingerprint through a camera under the display, and in order for it to be able to do that, it needs to lighten up the screen to read your fingerprint. Now, that's okay in most cases, but when it's night, it kind of makes your screen awkwardly bright, and if you're sleeping or in bed or it's a very dark room, you notice it, and it feels kind of weird. I'm not sure if that's 100% a necessity to keep that kind of brightness alteration, but I don't know. It's just kind of a weird thing that comes into play. And overall, I think right now this is just a very new thing. It really needs to improve. It needs to get faster. It also, another thing that I realized coming from physical fingerprint scanners is that you no longer can just unlock the phone without looking at it, because now, since it is on screen and it is in a very specific spot of the screen, there are no guidelines. You just have to look down at it and make sure that's where it is, and then rest your fingerprint. Now, muscle memory does improve. I'm much more likely to open it now than I was when I first got the phone without looking at it. But one thing I do realize is, when you have a physical fingerprint scanner, there's a clear place to put it, and you can do that without even looking at your phone. So in most cases, it's unlocked before you even look at the display. Now, it's a little bit of an extra step where you have to turn on the screen, look at the fingerprint scanner, make sure that it's in the right place, place your finger on it, wait for a second or two, and then it opens up. So as you see, it's just adding extra steps. It's definitely a very cool feature, and something it's amazing that OnePlus is one of the first large-scale manufacturers to start putting this into their phone. But still something that I am not fully happy with right now. So another gripe with mine, which kind of will, this is part of a much larger issue I have with the phone, and that is no wireless charging. So this is the second iteration of OnePlus with a glass back, and still we don't have wireless charging. It's not that expensive to implement. Almost everybody has wireless charging now, and if you don't have a glass back, I can understand why you wouldn't have wireless charging built into your phone, but this is a glass back. There aren't any excuses, to be honest. And at the price point this phone is, almost any other phone you look at, even a price point or two below, you're going to find wireless charging now, because it's just such a simple and basic thing to include into your phones. And that was also a complaint I had with the OnePlus 6, where it was very clearly a OnePlus just cheaping out and kind of holding on to that feature to put into the next version. My guess was that it would have come in this version, but I was wrong. So I guess they're still holding on to it for the next version. And I just feel like, you're clearly cheaping out there. It's not some technology that's been, it's not easy to implement. If Apple has done it and you still haven't done it, that says something to me. And building on the other fact, as I was saying, the lack of a stereo speaker setup, or just a louder or more decent speaker setup. Right now, OnePlus 6 and 6T have very mediocre speakers. OnePlus has always had mediocre speakers, but now I feel like there's just not an excuse. With every other phone, even, almost every phone has some sort of dual speaker setup, with the earpiece doubling as the second speaker. That can be done pretty easily, in my opinion. If not anything, it really just helps because the front speaker is really facing towards you, so you can hear it even if it's not the loudest, which makes it's perfectly fine. But absolutely not including it at all, that's an issue, because right now I just did a sound test with a bunch of phones, and the OnePlus 6 and 6T were the quietest of the entire bunch. This is one of the only phones left on the flagship market that doesn't have a stereo speaker setup. And I mean, even I don't mind the lack of a stereo speaker, but the quality of the single speaker isn't that good either. It's just not as loud. It sounds tinny when it's at max volume, and it's just not a good speaker experience. And I think that that's something that can be easily fixed, but OnePlus, again, is kind of cheaping out there with that upgrade. And I'm sure, as I said before, they're saving it for another generation of the phone, which is what comes up to my next point, which is point number 5. That is that the phone is not that different from the OnePlus 6. So in terms of looking at the phone from the outside, when you look at the display, it feels like a completely different phone because of that teardrop notch. You can barely see it there at the top. You got the in-display fingerprint scanner, and it makes it feel like it's a completely new phone from the front. But once you get past those two features, you realize that this phone is actually almost the same as the OnePlus 6. In fact, I ran benchmarks, and I've been using this phone for a while now, and I was using the OnePlus 6 right before this, so I came from the 6 to the 6T, and I'm telling you, performance is almost identical. Like, I cannot tell the difference apart. OnePlus was kind of bragging how GPU performance is going to be better with gaming and all. I'm not a big gamer on phones, I'll be upfront with that, so I don't know if gaming has really improved that much, but when it comes to everyday tasks, using the phone, multitasking, it's been identical, and that made me think, that kind of really does irritate me, because that means that there's no reason for you to jump from the 6 to the 6T. And again, that is okay, because nobody's really going to change phone in 6 months unless you're an idiot like me. But that's the point there, is that I think that the 6-month release cycles which is the next point, number 6, is a bad move. So OnePlus has been doing the 6-month release cycle for a while now. It started with from the OnePlus 3 to the 3T, and moving on from the 3T, every time in 6 months we get a new phone. So 3T to 5, 5T to, the 5 to 5T, 5T to 6, 6 to 6T, and that's all in the span of about 2 years. So December 2016, I believe I bought the OnePlus, December 2016 I bought the OnePlus 3, it's December 2018 now, and I have the OnePlus 6T. So that's 4 generations right there of the same phone. So at that point, you kind of start to realize that OnePlus is running out of steam, because there isn't much that changes in 6 months. There's not a lot you can do. That's why most phones wait a year, because that at least gives them time to make upgrades to CPU, graphics, performance, display technology, whatever it is. There's at least a little bit of a gap in there for more technology to advance. With the OnePlus 6 to 6T, this processor is the same, the internals are the same, the camera is mostly the same, and everything feels the same except for that display, which was kind of the same thing that happened from the OnePlus 5 to 5T. The display was the only thing that was really different. Everything else was the same. So that's the thing that I'm not that happy about with OnePlus, is that they have this weird cycle of 6-month releases, which make it very similar to the last phone, and I don't understand why it has to be. I mean, the 1 or 2 times they did it, okay, but then this constant trend is gonna have issues, because not only are you kind of annoying people who just buy your old phone, I specifically have friends who don't want to buy the OnePlus 6, any OnePlus phone, because they don't like that it's going to be outdated in less than 6 months. And that's if you buy it brand new, like when it immediately comes out. If you buy it 3 months after it's out, in 3 months there's going to be a new phone, and that just that cannibalizes their own sales, because people don't want to be upstaged in 3 months, 6 months after buying a brand new phone. It's just the way that people are. I mean, tech people might be different, but most normal people, they kind of want at least the latest and greatest for a little bit before something outshines them. And that's something that OnePlus is right now not acknowledging, and I feel like that's going to be an issue if they don't change. And I said the same thing when I talked about the OnePlus 5T and the 6, and I'm going to say the same thing now, and I'm going to say the same thing when the OnePlus 7 comes out in 4 months from now. So, I mean, what can I say? That's just something I really wish that the OnePlus brand would rethink. So the display is new, as I spoke about it, but the one thing that's a little bit annoying is that the display is very rounded off. I'm going to jump to a shot here where you can have a better look of how much more rounded off it is compared to the OnePlus 6. The display just doesn't, it cuts off a lot of information there. I feel like it's not necessary to have that aggressive of a curve on the display. It could have been a lot better, I guess a lot less curved. I'd like the squarish look a little bit more than all these rounded displays. I don't see why you're doing that, because it's robbing you of space for your content, because that means the curved area, until it reaches the straight point, most apps will not utilize the space above that. And then same thing there. So that goes down to navigation, or that goes to and even if an application does use it, a few do, what happens is you do start cutting out data or information from those corners, which doesn't have to be done. So it's just something that does bug me there. And finally, the last thing, nitpicking at this point, number 8, that is the launch colors problem thing. I don't even know how to explain it. Like, I don't know how to quote this point, because it's just, how do I frame it? It's stupid what OnePlus does with colors. When they release the phone, they know that it's their fans, the diehard people who go out to buy the phone the first day, the first week, etc. But what they do is they only launch the 1 or 2 boring colors in the first initial week, and then they move on to really cool colors. And they don't announce that, so you don't know what colors are coming. So if you do want to wait for a different color, I mean, it's a toss-up about what it's going to be. So last time it was the silk white. This time it's the thunder purple. So honestly, I did not like either color options with the OnePlus 6T. The mirror black and the midnight black, both of them don't look that good to me. But the thunder purple is very interesting, and I definitely would have gotten that over these two if I had the option when the phone was new. So that's what I'm saying here, is that OnePlus it's kind of taking a shit on their loyalist fans. Why would you do that? the way it should be is that when you launch the phone, you should have a special edition for the fans who are actually excited, pumped, want to buy the new phones, and you buy it. I mean, I understand the marketing gimmick behind launching a new color a couple weeks, couple months after the phone comes out to give it a sales boost, but that annoys people because now the thing is, I wanted that color. Now I can't have it, and it's kind of it bugs me. And now I'm going to buy the next phone anyway, but for most people, that might kind of deter them from coming back to the brand because they're going to be like, I'll buy it, and then they'll release something just a little bit better that I like more, and we'll have no clue about that, and that's it. That's going to be done. It's not a one-time thing. It's something OnePlus does every single time. They launch a special edition or a new color couple of weeks, couple of months after the initial launch, and it's generally a color that's really good that you can't pass up, and it really leaves a lot of fans, especially like me, disappointed because I would have definitely gotten that color had I known it was coming out. I would have just waited a little bit longer, but as a normal consumer, you're like, I don't know if it's going to even come out, or I'm not sure if I'm going to like that color, so let me just get this since it's new, it's the hottest thing right there. So that's what I'm saying. These colors, OnePlus is doing a lot of things good, they're doing a lot of things great, but they're doing a few things that are wrong, and I think that really needs to change. And that wraps up why I am not the biggest fan of the OnePlus 6T. Now, as I said, a lot of this was not related directly to the device. It's kind of to the company and how this device was made, how it was formed, how it came to. But it is what it is. So let me know what you guys think about the OnePlus 6T. I especially want to hear from people with the 5T and the 6 because it's been about a year since the 5T came out. So are you interested in this phone? Do you think it's got something that you want to upgrade to, or are you still happy with your phone and you kind of don't like that super aggressive refresh cycle? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you want to watch more videos, I have a bunch more linked in the description, and you can browse the channel as well. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.